Hi guys, and welcome to this little bit different video this time. What I'm doing here has nothing to do or just little to do with today's topic, so don't mind me, but I would like to discuss briefly what's, in my opinion, the most important discovery of technical Minecraft community this year so far. It's so game-breaking, it's not even funny, because it defines a completely new tool to influence the game, which is the manipulation of random number generators, also abbreviated as RNGs. As usual, there's a bunch of people involved in it. I think one of the first one was EarthComputer talking about cracking the player RNG, and recently there was a few other videos from other people that I'll be talking about a little bit later that involved world level RNG. So why it is important? In Minecraft, everything around us is procedurally generated, driven by a crapload of random number generators. Does this fortress, for example, needed to stop here, or it should have continued to some more sections? Who knows? It's all random, or it seems like it. The entire world and all of the unexpected events that happen all around us all the time, like crops growing or mob spawning. Okay, unless you make it turn off, like in this case, but that's a different story. All the things in the game are driven by random number generators, or rather pseudo-random number generators. The thing is, computers are very capable of doing millions, billions of complex operations per second, but they are really bad at making random choices, which nature, for example, is really good at. So what computers use instead is a very complex mathematical function that output a series of results that seemingly have nothing to do with each other, but as everything computer related, as just a very complex and convoluted but very predictable sequence. To generate this sequence, you need to know the formula, which typically uses a specific state of the random number generator called the seed. If you look at this sequence of numbers, you wouldn't be able to figure out why the numbers show up this way, but if I told you the formula and the seed, you would be able to regenerate the same numbers no problem, and even continue generating more to peak what would happen in the future. And what's even more interesting, if at any point you would want to start over to get the same results, you just need to reset the equation with the seed I gave you, and you will be able to regenerate the same pseudo-random sequence again and again and again. And that pseudo-randomness has their benefits. Like, if you open this world with a seed, for example, regardless of how you arrive at this location, this fortress here will generate the same way every single time. It seems like it has a random layout, but it isn't, because it always generates the same way, and this is due to a very specific seed that the world is generated with. Some events, though, are not driven by predictable random number generators, or at least it seems like it. Some very obvious examples are mob spawning. If I knew that all wither skeletons that will drop a wither skull 100% of the time spawn at this particular spot, I wouldn't need to build the entire farm. I wouldn't even need to dig all of it up. I would just need to put a piston next to this spot and just drop this poor guy in front of me below, and I would be getting a wither skeleton skulls every freaking time. Obviously, this is all driven by a pseudo-random number generator. However, if you layer all the events that happen in the world before it, on top of all player actions which are properly random, the sequence becomes scrambled and unpredictable very quickly. Or is it? On April the 1st, EarthComputer shown how we can crack the player seed, but that's responsible of lots of player actions. And that's a proper hacking, because you are just observing what kind of events happen around you, and from that you can compute where you are in this very long sequence that drives lots of the player-driven random actions. Obviously, if this was a security application, this would be a disqualifying thing, but since it's just a game, it's not a big deal. What you can do with it, you can, for example, make enchanting table return your enchantments you want, which is pretty sweet. However, with librarians and mending, nobody should really be using enchanting table for enchanting, maybe except for some basic early game gear. It gets much more interesting, in my opinion, with the world RNG manipulation, and that's for several reasons. First of all, most important random game events happen because of some decisions made based on the results of the world random number generator. And the second point, which is the awesome find that I was just talking about by EarthComputer, to name Xcom, Nessie, Eddxample, and probably a bunch of other people, is that you don't need to crack the game to exploit this RNG sequence. The game actually comes pre-cracked by the Mojang programmers themselves, which is awesome. What they did find is a strange piece of code in the code responsible for structure generation that resets the world RNG to a very specific seed. the RNG that's already nicely and properly scrambled from the world start due to random interactions of players with the environment. This makes everything that happens from now on in the entire world predictable, because we know the method and we know the seed. Obviously what they should have done, or rather what Mojang should have done, is to make a copy of that random number generator and reset just the temporary one, so they can get the same structure given the world seed every single time, while not touching the sequence from the world RNG. But they didn't do it. Unfortunately, it's not all butterflies, and due to some random preconditions of that RNG reset event, like current player positions or previous actions by other entities and tile entities in the game that have an effect after the reset, this quickly gets scrambled back again into a properly random sequence. It's a similar concept to a butterfly effect. You can check this on the wiki if you are interested. However, all of those extra preconditions we can control to some extent. In the worst case scenario, if we just blow up everything in all loaded chunks, make the world empty and let the player stand in a fixed position, we can keep the random sequence in control for quite some time. What they also found is that there's not much you need to do to trigger this code to reset the random number generator. Some structures, like woodland mansions, have huge area of chunks involved in the generation, which is 80 by 80 in this case, so we have plenty of chunks to work with, which is in this case 6400. And if we happen to load just one of them in each tick, we can get the world RNG to reset to a predefined point for that very tick. And we can easily chain it, so we can get the seed to get reset every freaking game tick. What this means that we can have a Groundhog Day in every tick of the game. We just need to load 900 chunks from this area, one chunk at a time, and then when the world save happens, which is every 900 ticks, and all the extra chunks we just loaded gonna be unloaded, we just need to repeat this again. So what this means? It means a lot. In a normal game we build huge farms because we don't know which crop's gonna grow or which mob's gonna spawn. Maybe one tick we get a skeleton here, then we won't get anything around this area for the next 50 ticks, mob's gonna spawn above us, whatever, and maybe next tick we'll get a creeper over here. Who can tell? Nobody. And that's why we build those farms so large and complicated, trying to help the random number generator to spawn a mob in our farm successfully. However, most of the time we are typically failing, and that's normal. So what if we make this random sequence to reset every tick? Then we can find out, for example, that a witch is gonna spawn in this particular location right after that reset. And if we reset an RNG again next tick, we should get a witch again. And again. And again. And what's super cool about it is also very frightening as well. And it's not scary because you can crack the game if you wish and remove the unpredictable nature of it. But what's scary is that the mechanisms to crack it are already built in the game itself by folks that coded this game because of some random code that resets permanently the world random number generator. As I was informed, this particular mechanic with woodland mansions is not gonna work in 1.13, or at least it seems like it's not gonna working, but unless Mojang has a deeper look into how random generators are being used throughout the code and fixes all the vulnerabilities, there might be a way to do it in the future as well, we don't know. But at least we have the technology. So how this can be useful? We were talking about mob spawning and mob farms. Here's what Xcom has shown last week. And it's not a witch farm, it's just a general purpose hostile mob farm with 4 spawning spaces that just happen to spawn a pack of witches at this exact 4 locations, providing a world seed just have been reset by the Woodland Mansion gen code. The player is in these chunks, and that's it. And the speed of this farm is essentially 1 pack of mobs per tick, because we repeat the sequence every tick, so 180,000 witches per hour, which is pretty crazy. And by all standards, it's a proper mob farm. We let the mobs spawn naturally, just accelerate it a little bit. We move them away and harvest them in a different location so we don't exceed the mob cap limitations. As simple as the mob farm can be. But overall, it's crazy. Check out how other people reacted to this farm on Xcom's video. I'll put a link in the description. Another application where we help the game to choose the right moment to spawn something we like is Eddie's Iron Farm. It's a single village iron farm that doesn't wait 6 minutes between spawning a single golem, as we discussed. It does it again 1 golem per tick with little help of resetting the seed that the golem is deemed to spawn every single tick. This farm by far beats all the complex multiple villages iron farms out there. It's essentially 7,000 times faster. Another example from Eddie, lightnings, which are also very rare, but with a simple help from an RNG reset, kablam! No need for tridents to get a decent charged creeper farm. To know to name shown something less theatrical, but if you think about it, equally spectacular and amazing. With the same witch chunk loading mechanism running, we are exactly in the same location as the witch farm. You can predict exactly how much ores you're gonna get from which ore. In this case, the whole contraption was tuned for the witch pack spawning demo, but with little fiddling you can guarantee to get 4 diamonds per ore, for example. Eventually, Earth discussed some applications where this might be used, and that's mind-boggling to live in this Groundhog Day kind of scenario. Definitely worth checking out. I hope these guys will follow with some other detailed explanations of this technique, how to make it work, how to control what happens and where, but for now don't forget to check their amazing demonstrations of the power of this technique. Is it good or is it bad? Is it still a proper automation that is core nature of Minecraft, or just a blatant duping in the same league as facing 2 hoppers into each other and letting them do their jobs on their own? Anyways, it's a pretty amazing thing, game changing and game breaking at the same time. If you like the video, don't leave me a like. Go to Too Known to Names, EarthComputer's, Xcom and Eddie's video, check them out, leave them a like and then come back here. But definitely let me know in the comments what do you think about it. Is it straight up duping or just a crazy elaborate way to do a proper fast farming in vanilla Minecraft? I'm really curious what's your opinions about it. But for now, see you in the next one. Bye bye.